guys, welcome back to Gecko Made. Today we are going to be doing a little video on how to care for leopard geckos. And there's lots of videos out there, so it's more of a per your discretion, but this is what I personally do. And I've had a pretty good success rate so far, so we're gonna go right on into that. With your tank, you're gonna want stuff to put in it. You don't want just geckos walking around on glass. They wouldn't enjoy that. I as a human wouldn't enjoy that. So for that we have substrate. And for my geckos I use Eco Earth, and I can clip a little video in here and you'll be looking at that. And what Eco Earth is it's coconut fibers. It's probably the best substrate you can have for most of your reptiles. And with that being said, that's because it holds moisture extremely well. You only need to mist it like once in the morning and maybe once for at night. And that's just like 2 little squirts and you're all set. It helps prevent compaction, which is where if they swallow too much substrate it blocks their intestines or like twists them around. It's not good for them to eat their substrate, but Eco Earth kind of helps with that by being a little more natural, a little easier to break down. Next, you're going to want places for them to go into. Otherwise, it's going to be like sitting in the middle of an empty room, no bed, no dresser. So you're going to want a little hide, and we have that one here just as an example. This one's fairly old. It's well loved by them. They're still well loving it. This is your typical leopard gecko hide. This is just a Zilla rock hide. It's plastic. It holds a lot of heat in there if you have it underneath the heat lamp. Alright, so you're gonna want a hide or 2, because we personally have a moist hide, and that's just a place with a little bit of moss in it, which you can get from your pet stores, from online, even some hardware stores, but be careful of that because it might not be up to code in like cleanliness or disease-freeness, so to speak, of having stuff living in there, as it would be from a pet store. And with that we have a more enclosed hide, so the top actually separates from the bottom, and so it's gonna be harder for the moisture to get out of that, and that just helps with peels so their toes don't fall off like our poor little Peep in the first video had. It also helps with any facial shedding too. So along with the hides, you're also gonna want a little bit of coverage for when they do decide to come out, which they're nocturnal unless you wake them up throughout the day or for feeding. So it's actually really important to have these because they might actually become more active in the daytime if you do have these just like little bushes in there. We currently have aquarium plants in ours because they don't mold. They're made of like a plastic rubber, you know, they can't cut them, they can't hurt them in any way, they don't try to eat them. Some optional substrates, so Eco Earth can become a little expensive depending how big of a tank you're using. So as I say, you need 10-gallon minimum for 1 gecko, so and add 5 for each additional if you choose to, and trust them. If you start them really young, it'll generally be okay to keep them together. So additional substrates for that Eco Earth, you can use that. They have the green kind of outdoor mats, and with that I definitely suggest getting little bits of Velcro in the 4 corners of it and maybe just one in the center, because if the mat lifts up at all, you'll either find all of their uneaten food or themselves underneath the mat instead of comfortably on top, you know, no risk of injuries on top of the carpet in case something falls over, which if it's gonna cause great damage when it falls over, it probably shouldn't be in their enclosure. And we also have experienced sand in the enclosure. Like I say, that was when we rescued Pete, we switched it out like right away. Sand is a huge no. Because with the calcium sand, or reptile sand as it's called, it's not actually friendly to reptiles. It can cause compaction and it doesn't break up. misting it every single day, you'll actually notice that it starts to get harder, like a crunchy layer on top. And that's not good for them. It's way too harsh on their skin. They can't swallow it or digest it if they do swallow it. It's bad news. Please don't use sand. Please. And heating is another thing you're going to want in your enclosure. So they should adjust 80 to 85 in the warmer area of the enclosure with a 90-degree basking spot. You don't want it any hotter than 90 because that means they're just going to start getting burned. Just like we burn. They will burn as well. And you don't want that. You're also going to want the water on the cool side, which should not go below like 70 to 75 degrees. I know that's not a whole lot of leeway, but that's what makes them so easy to take care of. And the water being over there, it won't evaporate, which is going to be nice if you work long days and you can't be home, or if you have kids that have these. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to take care of them. And with the water dish, make sure it's shallow, but also large enough to fit their whole body in it. You want it shallow because they can swim. They don't enjoy swimming. Couple little interesting facts about geckos. They can drop their tails. You do not want to grab them by their tails if they seem agitated. They'll let out a little squeak, and it's mostly juvenile, well, baby into juvenile, that will use this like bark kind of squeak, and that means they are not having a good time and they want to be put down. They do this when they're little because they're not accustomed to being held, and that's okay. Just ease into it. They'll love you eventually. They will. Alright, well, that concludes this video of leopard gecko care. As I said, we will have all those clips in there for you to go back to when setting up yours, if that's why you're watching this video. If you're watching it just for fun, feel free to give us a subscribe if you like what you see. Have a good day, and bye. Why don't you love me, love me, love me? Touch me, touch me, touch me no more.